Is there any discussion from the floor?
If I could come in right here.
And during this time, please note that it is limited to 5 minutes per person to state their concern. Council direction to staff for resolution or take this matter under advisement for action at the next regularly scheduled meeting. The following format will be used to conduct the hearing. The presenter will have a maximum of 5 minutes to explain his question. Council members will have an opportunity to ask questions or comment on the question. Go ahead, Ryan.
All right, thanks. My name is Ryan Sin. I'm at 458 Manor Drive, Northeast. I'll keep it brief because I think we've got some other people that want to talk tonight. I have 3 short things. First off, again, we're going round and round in the Semstone stuff. I've got the article from the paper. I hope this is the right one I grabbed. That basically talks about Barbara Carlson saying that if we decide to build a new building, our citizens will pay more in taxes. And we should make that clear around the table. I think we're going to pay more in taxes regardless of whether we buy the property or whether we build a new building. The city spending their money buying commercial zoned land when we already have a deficit in terms of our taxable property base is foolish, and we shouldn't be doing that. And that's a big issue here. And I'm not sure why the City Council doesn't want to address that or talk about that. It sounds like you're already going ahead and developing the purchase agreement tonight at the closed meeting. That's what the article in the paper says. So, again, on the topic of the Semstone property, I would
Ryan,
encourage...
can I interrupt? I'm sorry.
Sure.
I think you were misinformed. It is not on our agenda.
Can you speak up?
You were misinformed. It is not on the agenda. There are copies there, aren't there,
Okay.
for you to look at? It is not going to be discussed.
It's not going to be discussed tonight, but there's going to be a private... No?
No.
Can you guarantee
There's a
there's
closed,
going to be that discussion in the closed meeting?
Yeah.
Thank you.
If there were going to be such a discussion, we would have to say that.
I apologize for
Oh.
what?
If there were going to be such a discussion, we would have to have it on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay. So it just says that Nelson had said that we have a closed session on February 21st agenda already. We have to use that session to talk about the price and what the purchase agreement would say.
I'm sorry that that's wrong. We
Okay.
had no intention of discussing that this evening.
All right. Well, it's published in the February 17th Blaine Spring Lake Park Life paper. I'm happy to share it if you guys want to look. But to keep it under the 5 minutes, when I talked last time, I had asked for the City Council to take an action or pass a resolution to allow the release of the information that I had requested from Nelson, from Administrator Nelson. She had stated that it's not good to set a precedent. I think the city's already setting precedents with the HRA funds, giving those to private business. I mean, that precedent was set there then in terms of people asking the city for handouts. So I think it would be great in the interest of transparency to offer the citizens the last 5 years of finances. And I have 5 copies of a sample resolution that you guys can look at. So if you guys would like to make a motion on it tonight or talk about it and put it on the agenda for the next time, that would be great. I can hand those out. And then I have one other resolution that I would like to bring up. This is something that's bothered me for a long time, and we've talked about, is that it's very hard to find out what's going to happen at these meetings before we get to the meetings. So what I would like to ask the City Council to do is to put forward a resolution to instruct the city staff to publish on the website what the council meeting agendas are when the City Council would receive them, and in terms of also what the City Council receives in their packets, any of that information that's public, if the city could publish that on the website as well, so that instead of having to come here and have like a pile of paper for me to scramble through what we're going to talk about, I could actually look at it in advance and be a little bit more cohesive. So I can, if you guys will let me approach, I can hand out what I've kind of gotten written,
Sure.
and you guys can figure out what you want to do with it from there. Essentially, the first one says that whereas transparency in government is paramount to the democratic process in maintaining an informed and educated residents of the city of Spring Lake Park, and be it resolved that the City of Spring Lake Park will publish to the city website all city council meetings and workshop agendas and any public data provided to council members and staff on the same day the information is made available to council members. So it's pretty straightforward. And the other one is just specifically asking for release of the information, financial information from 2007 to 2011, with the gross revenues and expenses for the Recreation Department, vendor payments, including all professional and contracted services that are not included on city payroll, and a comprehensive list of all employees, their start dates, and the departments they are expensed against. And then the final item is a comprehensive list of all funds managed and operated by the city and the current balances of those. So, and then any questions? Sorry if I'm had coffee today, so I'm a little wired up.
That's okay. If you'd like to just give that information
Sure.
to the administrator, she can make sure we get a copy. Thank you very much.
Council, as it relates to publishing the agenda on the website, we can certainly do that. Whether you take formal action or not, I can make sure that that happens. We do post it on the front door. We do put it on cable TV, but we can now put it on our website. So we'll make sure that happens.
And then I know, like the last time we talked about, Barry had brought up numbers and foreclosures, and so I'm jotting that stuff down furiously, and I'm sure we can email it back and forth. But if we could see that, it would just help to discuss things more
Sure.
detail. So
No problem, Mr. Sims.
thank you guys, I appreciate it. Any other questions? Thanks.
No, thank you. Is there anyone else?
My name is Mark Miller. I live at 8037 Garfield Street. And actually, I'm just going to throw this out there, an observation that I have, and it's regarding the roads, particularly like Highway 10 and 81st Avenue. And I know that the police officers spend quite a bit of their time with the cars monitoring the roads coming east on Highway 10 around Pleasant View and west going towards Able, and then also on 81st and several other places. And I know that for the city, the police department is a big chunk of our budget, and I'm thinking that some of the things that we could do to maybe help that out would be possibly look into putting radar speed signs on these roads. If you're familiar with those, they have them on Long Lake Road and down in Minneapolis. I was reading some data on that, and according to the data I was reading, they're about 80% effective in reducing speeds 10 to 20%, depending on the speed of the road that they're trying to control. And they work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And so I'm thinking that that's something that, perhaps would be worth spending some time and effort on trying to get those put in place. Obviously, if the city doesn't have budgets for it, it might even be something that you could present to community groups or something to help purchase. But there are several places in the city that I think the officers concentrate their time on, trying to slow the traffic down. But it can only be done during the time that they're there, and it does expend officers' time doing that versus other things that they could be doing. So I'm just throwing that out there as a suggestion. I don't know if it's something that can advance or anything like that. I was just thinking that would be an idea to look into.
I do know they work, because whenever I see one, I tend to slow down a little bit.
Thank you.
They're quite costly.
Doug would,
Excuse me.
oops.
I did do some cost research on them, and I forgot to tell you, $2,000 to $5,000 a piece to purchase. I don't know what the maintenance costs are on them. I would venture that it's fairly inexpensive, but $2,000 to $5,000, depending on the type of sign you get and how they're put in and the number you buy and that type of a thing. That's why I'm saying perhaps even it could be something that could be done through a civic group if, obviously the city doesn't have money necessarily to do that type of thing, but it is something that perhaps even, and I'm not saying take money out of the police department time, but maybe if it could cut some of their time out, that would help their budgets too, so.
Thank you.
I think there was a couple times when we did
Yeah.
borrow Blaine. No, not Blaine, Fridley's.
No, is it Mr. Milner? Okay. Thank you very much for that information. This is something that we have talked about, and we have, myself personally, looked into. We deal with the aspect of the cost of it. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Hear me okay? Okay. And the biggest problem we have is, one, is the dollars to finance these things. You're correct, they do assist with the public, and when an individual in the public sees it, the natural tendency is to go, oh, how fast am I going, look down, and then slow down. It does not change the issue of that the speeding still does exist. So it does help curb that. We look at it. I've personally looked at different types of grants for this type of stuff. I have not been able to apply for or receive yet any type of funding for this type of item. So, but it is being considered and it is being looked at, if nothing else, by myself personally.
Well, I'm just saying, if somebody could put it together, even if you could put together a budget that said, here's what it would cost, we may be able to go to a Lions group or some other group, or even some type of a citizens group that might be able to raise money to do that.
Personally, as a police department, I don't believe we're allowed to do that any longer. If it's something that is approached to the city council, then, that may be a different story. But for me to personally go out to the public and say, hey, would you like to donate, I cannot do that without an act from the city council.
Chief, I have a question.
Go ahead.
When you brought that one out to Fifth Street, where did you get that? I thought it was ours.
It is ours.
It is.
We do have a mobile speed trailer. We do put that out during the summer months. We do not leave it out overnight simply because we did for a while and it was vandalized, and it cost quite a few dollars to fix it. So we put it out early morning and we'll leave it out into the late evening, and then it'll be brought back in. So.
And the only way that traffic ever slowed down was the days you had it up, but when it's gone, the traffic is back on Fifth Street, just as fast, if not faster, than what it was.
And that's the issue with the movable type speed trailer that we have. It's not there permanently, like what Mr. Miller is speaking of, correct?
If we had permanent speed units, wouldn't they be vandalized too? I would think that they'd be a
They
real
could very well be
attractive.
vandalized as well. There is an inherent upkeep cost to them that is not readily presented with the sale of them, from the aspects of if you use the solar charging systems versus the batteries versus a portable charging pack. There's different things that go into that are also cost restrictive.
And then if they're in the same place all the time, people just tend to ignore them, I would think.
A lot of times they're placed in areas of parks or schools. There are some in different areas that I've seen some in Blaine that have been put up. To what extent, I don't know if it reduces it as much as what you said or what the studies have.
There's one out in Wayzata. There's one out in Wayzata that's been up there for about 5 years, and it's still effective today. I sat there and watched cars come through there for about 15 minutes, and I saw brake lights come on continuously. It's been there for 5 years, and it's always worked. My parents live out there.
Sir,
I know that
could you come up to the microphone? People in the audience can't hear you.
I know there is one out in Wayzata. I've seen it. It's been there for about 5 years. I've never seen it not working, so I don't know that it's been vandalized. I mean, I obviously don't see it all the time, but I'm out there quite regularly. And I sat there and watched it the other day. It was about 2 weeks ago, and I just parked off to the side and watched, and brake lights came on as the cars approached it, and as the light was flashing, you could see the brake lights going on. So after 5 years, it's still working, slowing the traffic down.
There is a visual effect that is responsive to us as drivers. When you see a flashing light, the first thing you do is normally, if you're driving, you let off the gas, and you'll have a tendency to look down as a natural reaction. So that's those with a visual aid that have a white flashing light or maybe a different colored flashing light. Some do not, they just pop up your speed. Those may or may not be as effective because of the lack of the visual aid. But if you see something flashing, your attention is drawn to it, and it makes you make a cognizant notice of what you're seeing and what you're doing.
I would say that the visual you have out by the high school works very much for my husband, because he when he comes up to it, he's always saying, geez, I'm always going 35 when I come up to this. I can't believe how I get up there from one point to another, from that stop sign on.
Yep.
And that visual really helps him kind of tow it back where it's supposed to be.
And the purpose we went with the speed trailer was for mobility and the cost of these things. It made more sense for us to be fiscally responsible, dollar-wise, to have something that we can move around the city and not just put in one spot. We try and utilize as much as we can during the summer in different locations for that purpose.
Well, put Fifth Street on your list, because, boy, I'll tell you, it is a speed zone. And every time we have a block party of sorts, the people there are very concerned with all the young children, and they're very concerned. We know they're not supposed to be in the street, but let me tell you, we don't have sidewalks, so the kids do go to the park, or they do travel around on their bikes on that street. And people just drive crazy on that street.
Yep.
And it's just like they've got one intent, that's to get home or whatever, and they don't seem to care about the speed of the kids.
Are you talking about 6th Street?
Fifth
or
Street.
81st? Oh.
Fifth Street, from
I live on
81st
6th
on up.
Street, And I see traffic leaving the park at all times at high rates of speed.
Right, really high rates of speed.
Yeah,
It's kind of very, and I know you've told me that they're not going as fast, Barbara, as you think they are, but
Not always.
not always, but a lot of the time they are.
Yeah.
And it's
It's,
always the same people.
It's everywhere. I mean, I live by Northtown, and it's down my street, it's down Terrace, it's down San Bruno, it's everywhere.
I live across from Terrace Park.
Yeah.
So I can tell you that softball games, you name it. And we're not talking kids, we're talking adults flying out of that parking lot.
Ma'am?
Headed down
Ma'am?
79. I apologize.
Can you go to the mic?
Oh, yes, I can. I'm sorry. I thought I speak loudly, so I just assumed.
Well, the viewing public can't hear from...
I live on 6th, right across from the Terrace Park, and I got to tell you, the situation over there with the softball games, with all the athletic things that go on, those people burn out of that parking lot. We don't have a lot of young children in our neighborhood like we used to, because they've all grown up and, gone away. But it's just amazing. I'm just surprised that the police presence is not more noticeable. They do come, I got to tell you, when they get a call, they're there in a minute or less. They were nice enough to chase down an SUV and catch the people that I watched from my driveway beat down another kid. And we're talking like 5 minutes. They got him. So I'm just saying that, yes, the speed limit, but I agree with this gentleman that the lighted signs with the things, because I slow down for them. Going into northeast Minneapolis, when you're coming off of 45 or coming down 47, you hit that 30 mile an hour, everybody slows down. So I agree with him. I think that would be a huge investment, and I think it would really make a difference, rather than the police presence so much.
Thank you.
Could I have your name, please? Your name?
Oh, sorry. I'm Dana Breeding, 7906 6th Street. Didn't come here to talk, but you brought up the topic of interest.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Oh.
Mayor and Council, my name is Dan Dennell. I am a resident of Oak Grove. I'm on the City Council in Oak Grove. And I'm here to introduce myself because I'm running for Anoka County Commissioner. Totally different district. However, when I'm on the commission, I obviously will have a vote concerning everybody in the county. A little bit about myself. I'm a fiscal conservative. I believe in sensible government. I know how to tear apart a budget and find places where we can save some money. And I think that the county, even though they did a fairly decent job this past year, can do better. And in this day and age, we all know the kind of decisions that you're making, trying to save money and trying to be as fiscally balanced as you can, and I can offer that. So I don't have anything to give you tonight other than my name, and I can give you my website if you care to go on there. We're gradually putting that together, but it's www.denno.com. I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Dan.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Hi, I'm Jason Letourneau, 8001 5th Street. I want to congratulate the mayor and the budget staff for reducing our budget 1.66%. It's hard, especially in our fiscal responsibility to reduce taxes. What I'm not happy with is the possibility of upping our taxes 30% to purchase a building we don't need. Now, I understand that Public Works, Police Department doesn't have enough room for the seized vehicles, seized bikes. And again, this is based on the information that I've been reading. I wasn't in the staff meeting. But I don't believe that spending $650,000 to purchase a building that should have been torn down when the original building was torn down to make way for a new station, a gas station, excuse me. We talk about not being able to make churches or schools come into our into our district because we're afraid we're going to lose our tax burden. We're going to up our tax burden. We're going to lose that tax base. And we said, I think it was Barbara that you told me, 19%?
Yes.
We're currently at 19% deficit. You're taking a $650,000 building.
Not a 19% deficit. We have 19% of our property in the city of Spring Lake Park that is non-taxable.
Okay, so how would you phrase that?
Just the way I did it. They're not. We have 19%
We have
of our
19%
property
of our entire city
that is
we
not
cannot
paying
tax.
taxes.
Okay.
That's right.
So can we tax a municipal building?
No.
So we're taking another building, another piece of property off the tax rolls for our own use.
I didn't know if that was legal because...
This is where I have a problem. We're spending $650,000 for a property we do not need. We already have two other properties that are viable for this that we already own. One we spend half as much money on.
Which ones are those?
San Bernal. That property is available. I was here for that meeting. I'm the one to discuss keeping that property for the city. We were given first right.
And those
to purchase it.
garages are full.
I understand the garages are full, but the property is still ours. We don't have to purchase it for $650,000.
Right.
Okay?
Jason, can I interrupt you?
Sure, go ahead.
Jeff would like to make a comment, please.
Sure.
On behalf of City Council.
The city has given no direction to negotiate for the Semstone building. There has been no direction to do that.
So what I read in the newspaper was a lie? That the city isn't interested in purchasing the property?
Most of everything you read in the newspaper is a little off.
I'm not sure what you read in the newspaper, but there has been no direction by the city council to negotiate on the Semstone building. That's
So the newspapers, two of them are printing hearsay? This is. I mean, I'll sit down. I mean, honestly, if this is just a farce and it's not true, I'll sit down. I have no problem.
Yeah, and we discussed this. We had a couple different workshops on it, and we.
So there was a discussion about purchasing the Semstone property.
Oh yes.
So I'm just giving my opinion.
I mean, someone's said it before about the building. I thought, well, maybe they don't know that we're really not going to go down that road. So we just wanted to save your time and say we're not going to go down that road. We're not interested in the building.
So you're not interested in purchasing a property in order to put up a new public works building then?
No. We did talk about a discussion about possibly if we need a building to get a price on, a building on site on here of something that more of a suitable size of what we need versus that building. So we did talk, we're just getting some quotes on that.
You've issued an RFP then?
No.
I'm sorry, a request for proposal for information from architects, engineers, and builders?
No. No.
So who is it that you're discussing this with then?
No,
We just had a workshop.
we just had a workshop on it to
Okay.
see what the cost differences were on a new building versus,
Okay,
You
and
know,
you're
that-
bringing up costs. Who's deciding the cost for the building then?
we haven't
We
decided
haven't
anything
even,
yet.
we haven't even went that far.
You're discussing a topic on how much money you can spend to put a smaller building on this property.
We want to know what it would cost.
So who are
That's
you
it.
asking?
Builders, informally.
Right, but you're a municipality. You're required to issue an
We will.
RFP
No,
for
We
information.
will when it gets to that point.
If and when.
So
it-
you've chosen the building.
If and
All right,
when,
thank you.
if it does. Is there anyone else?
Ken Long, 547 81st Avenue. This is getting very, very perplexing. I'm just, I call it Wyatt Brothers because that's what it was when I was a kid.
I can't hear you.
I was
Ken, what was your name again?
Ken Wendling, Wendling. This is getting perplexing. What we read in the newspapers to what we hear from other citizens of the city is different than what we just heard tonight. I was just informed that we're allowed to look at the minutes of the workshop meetings. Is that true? When are they available to us?
They could be.
I mean, we
available
just
at
walk
any
into
time.
City Hall and say,
That's how the press got it. They took their information off a tape, so that's why they can
Yeah.
get a little confused, because it's not always in context what they take off, so.
because it's just awfully confusing. I'm trying to figure out, how do I budget my household? And then I'm watching you or watching things being said. They're talking the talk was $670,000 for the building. Was anybody looking at refurbishing the building to put the police storage in there? I mean, there's other options as far as Spring Lake Park. Jason brought up San Bernal. The Lions Den is as far as I'm been told and looked at, that building should be demolished and, nobody should be in it. And the Lions are there, luckily for us. But why can't the city lease and help pay our tax base?
Lease what?
A building for storage, for bicycles, whatever. Old City Hall is still abandoned and nobody's in there. I mean, there's a lot of vacant buildings which the city could lease and save us tax dollars.
Well, it's for more than just bicycles. It's for some of our public works equipment that's sitting outside and
Yeah,
deteriorating
and-
the longer it sits outside. But we're not buying the Semstone
Yes,
property.
well,
So that's
that's
a
a
new
nice
issue.
thing. I mean,
There
'cause-
was never any direction to prepare a purchase agreement or anything.
Well-
So when you hear from the public, that's strictly rumors.
Mm-hmm.
You can call City Hall at any time to confirm what you've heard. The minutes from the workshop are available.
Okay. And for storage of buildings, have you talked to the city of Fridley, city of Blaine, city of Mounds View, the state of Minnesota, Anoka County for storage space?
Well, when we had originally discussed the Semstone property, the school district was on board from leasing space from us. But we're not doing that. So we did have some options to have that money generate some revenue,
Okay.
hopefully enough to maintain it.
Yeah, I'd rather see us not purchase and then, get from somebody else. To share like the fire department does. There's a lot of big buildings to put a dump truck in around Spring Lake Park, or build a nice pole barn at a nice reasonable price.
Well, we don't
First-
allow pole barns. So
Yeah, but you can. I mean,
it doesn't make sense for us to build it when we don't allow anyone else
Oh.
to. So, but
I see no
the
reason things can
Semstone
change.
building is a moot point.
That's good, because that can be developed by somebody private, because that whole little line mall is seen better days.
Half of that building, by the way, is in Blaine.
Yes. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, then we will move on to the consent agenda. And